guys, Jackie with Famished Farm, and today we're gonna see if we can turn these concrete reinforcing ladders into a trellis for tomatoes, peas, beans, squash, whatever. Stay tuned. So this is what these concrete reinforcing ladders look like. I don't know if they're used in columns or what the heck they'd be used in, but Diaries of a Plant Girl she wired two of them together and made like a 12-inch trellis. And what I'm thinking is, if I put one green stake down here where my foot is, then I can attach all three of these for three separate tomatoes or beans or whatever, and use one green stake per little trellis. So I don't know how well you can see that. Now, they're not super strong. I'm not sure that these are gonna work as I see, but we're gonna give it a try. So I'm gonna do this for 6 bales. So here we go. We've got our cordless drill. I've grabbed a cordless screwdriver too, some bits. And the process is to stake the 3 ladders on the bale side and then to flip them over and attach them somehow into the fence. And what I found is I could take and drill into the topmost horizontal piece of the fence that you can't see from the side of the fence. It's on the back side. But pretty much by drilling in between the fence pickets, a couple of them I did have to drill like in the centers or whatever just to get the spacing right, but I just did a hole a couple inches, well, probably about 2 inches from this side of the fence into that other piece of wood. But into that other piece of wood, it was only maybe 1.25 inches or so. So will that stay if, you know, the wind's whipping around? That remains to be seen. I have also brought out here some metal strapping, the kind that has the holes in it, and I had planned on running the metal strapping from the first rung of the ladder to the fence and then screwing it into the fence as a way to hold it on the fence side more securely. But what I found is just by putting, like I'm doing right here, you kind of have to be careful with those rungs because 2 of the rungs on the first 2 pieces that I put in place broke already. So this is a finer gauge than a cattle panel. Obviously you can see it's really flimsy. Will it do what I am going to ask it to do this year? I hope so. It looks kind of cool when this whole tunnel type effect is completed, and it will hopefully look beautiful. Now I've stepped off to the side here to check the spacing on basically the bales. I can tell where I'm spaced okay, but I'm checking to make sure they look okay up against the fence. So I have to step back a couple times just to check that out, and then drill 2 holes for each of these ladders, and then basically just shove those ladders into the holes I've just drilled. I didn't put any kind of glue or anything, and I'm hoping that they will stay in place just with the 2-inch hole that I've drilled. So I'm going to repeat this for all 6 bales, and it's a pretty easy process. This took under an hour getting them set up, and most of it was, or at least half of it was, stepping back and checking out the spacing to make sure that everything looked okay. And every time I go to drill, I also check how far down the fence I'm gone and that the two holes will be level. You'll see I have a little torpedo level and a pencil that I use for each of the bales, each of the ladders rather. And that torpedo level, I've made a mark on it on the first set of holes that I did on the first bale, so I know how far down I want the holes that I'm going to screw into the fence to go. And then once I've marked those two holes, I put the torpedo level at the top of both of those holes, the marks that I'd made to drill, to make sure that they're even, and then adjust if I need to. I was just going to eyeball it, but I think the level part is important because they're easier then to get into the holes I've made. And the other thing is that if I decide that I need these to go all the way through the fence for more stability, what I was thinking is I could use a bigger drill bit, and which would be longer also, drill all the way through that horizontal cross member, and then shove these ladders through the hole, which would go all the way through the fence. And then I could use a pair of pliers and just crimp, make like a little L shape on the end of the ladders that would hold those ladders then in place unless the whole fence came down. So that's kind of my backup plan for these. If they, if I can tell the first big storm that blows through, they're just not going to be sticking in the fence. That is plan B. So I'm going to make these work one way or another just because I like the looks of them and I sure like the $5 plus price on them. I mentioned earlier that I'm going to stake these down on the bale side, and I would do that now, but the green T-stakes I've got are too long. They're 6-foot T-stakes, and I need to find the 4-foot ones, and I'm just going to do one per bale and see how that works. So that is going to have to wait for another day. So why not cattle panels? Well, I don't have them. I don't have a hay wagon to get them to the house. I have a work van that they would stick out the end of the work van, which is when we do eventually upgrade the cattle panels, that's what we'll have to use to get them. But mainly it's just about the cost. And I didn't want to have to lay out, not that I would need 10 of them, but I wanted to lay out the exact amount of money that I spent and not any additional this year. But it is something that definitely will be upgrading as the years go on to, add 1 or 2 of those a year. And honestly, I'm trying to remember what I've got growing on these. And the tomatoes, 2 slicer tomatoes, definitely. And I've got a small melon that grows on a trellis nicely. And that I'm picturing if it had more than, 1 fruit or 2 fruits, I'm not sure that these would work. So it's just going to have to be a wait and see. Now, will they work for snow peas, snap peas, and my pole beans? I think it's going to work beautifully. So time will tell. Now, another use in the next life of these little concrete ladders is I am growing this year. In fact, I've already got the grapes to go in. I'm going to be putting in a grape arbor, and these would work horizontally on a grape arbor, on 2 posts basically on either side of a plant. These would work, and instead of using cable or another wire or something. So that was another potential use I had for them down the road. And I've always loved those structures that people grow beans in a teepee shape. And I was thinking something like this in more of a gazebo shape would be very cool too. So I do have some ideas for some vining type uses around the house, in the front planters, down the road. So these are not going to be wasted by any stretch once we do move to cattle panels. So I do have some ideas on other uses for them in the future. But this year, just get me through the tomato hump and the squash hump, and we'll see how we do. Another factor in the cattle panels was they were not in stock. The 3 places that I checked for straw bales when I was buying the straw bales for the garden, I also inquired about cattle panels. The 2 farm supply stores were both out of stock and pretty high on price still. And I just checked our local Rural King, which is a bigger, like a Tractor Supply in our area. That particular store, now they were in stock, and I noticed the price was a little bit lower too. So that is good news for down the road. Are you guys still having price and product out of stocks and those kind of issues where you are? Sometimes I just wonder if it's because we're in Alabama, but I would just wonder, how is it in your area? So while I was working on this project, Rod walked up with an Amazon box and the landscape staples that I wasn't able to come up with in-house using existing wire that I had came from Amazon. So I had ordered a box of 6-inch 100 count landscape staples, so I can now put the weeper hoses out in the boxes, which we'll do as soon as this project is completed. This is such a beautiful day. Rod has pulled the mower out and he's getting the mower ready. I think he changed the oil or something. So he's getting ready to mow later. And then the dog's sunning herself in the yard. You can see in some spots on the video. And it just is a gorgeous day. When I'm done with my 2 projects here on this side of the garden, I decide while he's going to mow that I'm going to take apart his little area where he has the ladder stored that you may have seen in previous videos is covered with a wind-torn tarp. I'm going to clean that up. We have company coming, and so it's a great time to kind of get that area cleaned up. And there's a ton of leaves that I'm just going to have him mow over and mulch the leaves. And it will be great for the lawn where this is going to be, because it's the area that the previous owners had their swimming pool. So great place for that. So here is our completed trellis tunnel, and I'm just going to walk you around and give you a little tour of that. I like how it turned out. You'll see from this other angle. Maybe you can make that out. I like the little curves of each of them. And I think it'll look great filled with plants. So next up I have these weeper hoses that I had bought one new one, and I've had these stretched out so they're nice and pliable on this nice 70-degree day that we had to work in the yard. So we're going to get these stretched out, and I've been thinking about how I'm going to set these up in the yard. So here we go. I'm excited to bring this vision to completion and to reality. Let's just hope that in actual use it actually works out. I might be a little premature in my celebration. So here we are now, same day, working on the hoses. And on the straw bales, you just need one hose going down the center of the bale to water the entire bale. And I've kind of forgotten that these new planters, not new planters, but newly filled planters with my composted soil are not straw bales. So I really should have more than one length of hose in each planter. Now these are not real wide planters, but I still would feel more comfortable with 2 rows. So I'm able to do that in the planters, the last 2 planters, the planter I'm working in right now. I wish I had started it on the right side of the planter and then did a U-shape. You know, hindsight, we'll just maybe have to plant things in that particular planter that don't need as much water, or maybe I'll have to pull this all out and try again. But you can see now in these, that planter there, we did the 2 lengths of hose, and I think that'll be perfect. And then nice straw bale coverage, I think. Adequate straw bale coverage for what we need. And these little landscape staples are working nicely, and with a pack of 100, that should keep us for a while. And as I get down on this end, I've got enough here that I can wind it through I've got 2 more bales to go on the right, but I'm going to wind it through my blueberries also and get them some good drinks of water. I did not water them at all. And 2 of the 4 blueberries are well established, so it's probably not necessary, but it's always nice to give them a drink. As I move off this straw bale, I'm gonna kind of get out of frame. You're not gonna really be able to see me work on the hose around the blueberries, but it brings up then, oh, there you could see me loop around that little blueberry plant. But as I pan in the other direction, once I get these taken care of, you'll see what survived out of my 16 little strawberry plants, which were actually pretty good size. We were below freezing. I think we were -7 or -4, I can't remember now. And I didn't mulch them, I didn't do anything to them, so they were kind of fending for themselves, and I do not have a lot of strawberries left. So that is something that I'll replenish. And I'm also I've decided to, one corner of this particular strawberry patch, I am going to plant my rhubarb there. And this is just a bulb that I've planted or bought from Home Depot or Walmart, I'm not sure which. But I'm going to put that in and see how that does on the end of the planter that gets a lot of sun. So we'll try to get some rhubarb going here. When we moved from Illinois, I left my mom and my grandma's rhubarb plants with the new homeowner up there. I did give my brother a couple cuttings, and I'm hoping that he takes care of those and gets those producing. So at some point I would like to add my grandma's decades-old rhubarb plant to my plant here in Alabama. Just would be cool to have that passed down. And I don't know what variety of rhubarb it is, but it was prolific, hearty, and delicious. So it is something that I look forward to at some point in the future. In the background there, you can barely see the area I'm going to be cleaning up, which is a couple sawhorses and a pallet that he puts his lawn sweeper cart on, and the wheelbarrow and some ladders, and it just is kind of an eyesore. At some point I want to make a little lean-to building that we can store those items in, but it's not on the docket for this year. Hopefully next year we'll get that done. And as I finish up on the strawberry bed with the weeper hose, can you just picture me ripping this out in a few days? The more I think about it, the more I'm probably going to do that. It's not that it was a long project or anything. It's just, who's got time to keep redoing projects? I do. I guess I'm semi-retired. So anyway, here's a look of the route snaking through the 3 raised beds, the 6 rows or 6 bales of straw behind the raised beds, and then snaking over to eventually the blueberries. There's our blueberries by those bricks, the 2 little ones, and then back onto the back 2 bales of straw, and then the 2 bigger blueberries that were existing, well established, for not getting much sun, and then through the poor pitiful strawberries that are remaining. Good job, Jack. Oh yeah, and I'm going to put up this square tomato cage and a decorative trellis up against these 2 bales of straw for whatever might want to trellis up them. And then finally a shot of the area that I cleaned up of leaves and kind of moved it more back against the fence. And this is a work in progress.